What is up, guys? Tom Wilkins here, and today I have a review on the brand new, recently released Thomas and Friends All Engines Go Push Along Ashima. Now, this was a very impromptu find at Smith's Toy Superstores. I had no idea she'd been released, let alone in the UK. I also managed to find the new colour changes, which are... just grab them out. They are Nia, Diesel, and Thomas. Now, I do own the original three, which are Thomas, Percy, and Kana. I didn't do a review on them, simply because, well, if you know what colour changing toys are, you know what they are. So, I mean, if you want to see a video on them, I'll probably do another YouTube short showing off the colour changing feature. But anyway, today's main feature is Ashima. Now, Ashima in All Engines Go is a bit different to her CGI counterpart. For one thing, they start referring to her as Ashima instead of Ashima, which apparently Ashima is the correct way to say her name, but I'm very used to saying Ashima, so I'll try and call her Ashima throughout the review, but if I do say Ashima, I do apologise, I'm so used to it at this point. But in All Engines Go, she is portrayed to be kind of like a teenager in terms of age. I mean, you've got characters like Thomas, who's very clearly a child, and then Gordon, who is an adult. And I think Ashima's meant to be roughly the same age as someone like James. So, about a teenager kind of age, where she's very mature, but also still young and excitable. But anyway, I didn't come here to review the character, I came here to review the toy of the character. So, before I open the package, you can see her promo art at the top. Very colourful, very nice render. I think part of it's were reused from James's, from what I've heard, which is very interesting, because you look at her and you don't really see James, or at least I don't. But anyway, yeah, so her appearance in All Engines Go is quite nice. They give her a lot more character and personality than CGI ever did. But this pack is interesting, because it is the first push-along character pack, at least that I know of, that includes the character and a piece of rolling stock. Now, my assumption for them doing this is that Ashima on her own is probably not really big enough to be considered a big engine. Because like I said, you've got Gordon, and if I just compare the lengths of them without the truck, she is about the same length as Gordon, but she doesn't have a tender, obviously, so they gave her a little truck to compensate. And honestly, I'm happy with that, because this is the first time we're getting one of these little wagons in All Engines Go, in Push Along All Engines Go, excuse me, and it is very nice. There is an upcoming multi-pack with Thomas that has 3 of these, which I'm really looking forward to. It has the hole in the middle, which I'm assuming you can attach cargo to from things like play sets and things. I don't think the Push Along Troublesome Trucks cargo would fit in this. I think it's too big to fit in this. But as a little thing on its own, it is nice. It's made of plastic, so it's not heavy at all, but it is fairly solid plastic. It's got some nice riveting detail. Nothing on the underside. The bottom, I think, is made of plastic as well. Just feeling... yeah, the entire thing is made of plastic. But it is still a very nice piece to have. But anyway, the main attraction is Ashima herself. And first impressions, she is a lot lighter than I was expecting. You get some characters like Gordon, who do indeed have a fair bit of weight to them. But Ashima here, she's not very heavy, which is fine. I'm alright with that. Now, the main point of contention for me and a lot of fans was the side profile we got to see in her packaging showed her like this. And if you know anything about Ashima from the show, in fact, I can show you, is that she has a very, very colourful paint job that extends from her cab to her boiler, across her funnel, her smoke box. All of her is very beautifully painted, and the toy doesn't give her any painting or printing on the boiler, which you can clearly see she's supposed to have. She's supposed to have a painted dome, and this whole boiler section is supposed to be painted, and they didn't do that, which is something they haven't done for a few Ashima toys, but it is still very disappointing to see that they haven't done it for this one. Another thing was the side showed her smoke box as being blue. Now that is because the front mold of her is entirely blue with printing on it. And I will give credit where it's due. The front print, excuse me, the front printing for her looks beautiful. She's got a very nice face. Her lamp is printed. Her handrails are printed, which I wasn't expecting. And her entire front, including her buffers, are printed. And part of her cylinders. It's very nice from the front. But you can still see around her face, it's this dark blue color when it should be black. But it doesn't detract too much from the front profile. But as soon as you turn her to the side, all that nice detail goes pretty much straight down the toilet, because you get a plain black boiler, which is made of plastic, so I think they probably could have printed something on there, even if it wasn't the entire paint job. If they just had certain details going across her, like they show on the box, it would be fine. I mean, even if they skipped the funnel and dome, if they just did the little yellow and white stripe going down here and then the pink stripe, I would have been happy. But they didn't do that, unfortunately. Now, one thing about Ashima, that I really like is the wheel arrangement. Now, ever since all engines go, they thankfully have been starting to give the engines slightly more accurate wheel arrangements instead of having molded on wheels to the base. But Ashima actually doesn't have a unique wheelbase. She just has the large engine wheelbase flipped around. So here's Gordon. You can see he has the 3 driving wheels and the pony truck wheel in front. And what they did with Ashima is they just flipped it around. So she has the 3 driving wheels in the front and then the trailing wheel in the back. Now, I'm happy with this, to be honest. It makes her a very big model compared to her previous iterations, especially the original Taken Play, which is as small as the miniature engine Taken Plays, which is pretty terrible because Ashima's meant to be a fairly large engine, and this is the first diecast toy that's actually accurately represented that. But anyway, moving on. This entire back part is metal, it's diecast, and it is printed very nice. It's got some nice pink detailing going around her boiler, some little studded lining going across her side tanks, and her windows have this nice flower petal design, and this little vent down here that is also very nicely printed. Now, the back of her is actually fairly interesting because it's two pieces. The cab and the coal load are plastic, but this whole cab part that loops around the back is die-cast. So you can see the very back, it goes from blue to black without any interpretation of windows, and without any like configurations supposed to making it look like she has windows. But the back of her does actually look fairly interesting. All I'm not a fan of, though, is these tiny little buffers that she has. I do appreciate that they've started molding the buffers again as actual parts, as like separate parts of the body. But on her front end, they're smaller and they barely stick out, but they are printed, so it really enhances the look of the front of her. But on the back, they're just these 2 little plastic nubs that you could really easily miss. But at the very least, they have molded them, so you can just colour them yourself if you so wish. Unfortunately, her base is comprised of screws and rivets. There's her name as well, which is very weirdly compressed because they fit it in between these 2 gaps. But I don't get why they couldn't just go across this space. But it's not a big deal. Her name, Ashima, is written on the bottom there. But unfortunately, she is held together with screws and rivets, which means you can't just take her apart. You might be able to take the boiler off of her body, but you won't be able to remove the metal parts of her, which is very unfortunate, because one of my favourite things about the All Engines Go push-alongs was that they started using screws again, which meant for detailing you could take them apart and do separate parts without getting paint on another piece. But that's more of a nitpick on my end, so I won't hold it against the toy. And she isn't the first one to have it. I think the first one to have it was Hero in the new All Engines Go wave. But yeah, it definitely doesn't help that Ashima has it as well. But overall, I am impressed with this toy. I like the size, and I like the front detailing along with the face, which I don't think I mentioned, but she's got a very nice printed face. But nothing really too stand out about her face. It's just a standard all engines go simple happy face. But overall, I am impressed with this pack as a whole. I think having the truck really elevates it for me, because if it was just Ashima on her own, I would probably only give this a 7 out of 10, because Ashima is nice, but without the truck, if I had to pay full price for this, I would not be as happy as I am. But getting this truck now is very nice, because so far all we have are reused. In terms of rolling stock, all we have are reused Trackmaster, motorized, whatever you want to call it, rolling stock, and then the All Engines Go push along troublesome truck that was released a few months ago. So having this new one is very nice. It definitely expands the range a bit, and I very much look forward to it being included with either more engines or in that multi-pack, like I said before. So overall, as a pack, I would have to give this I'd give it a 7.5, I think. I'm hesitant to be too generous, because I do like the shape and the molding, but having no printed detail along the boiler really kills a lot of it for me. So I think I do recommend you pick this up. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a throat infection at the minute. I do recommend you pick this pack up, but if you can find it at a discount, I would definitely recommend picking it up at that discount. I got mine personally from Smith's Toy Superstores at Stockton. They had about 8 of them, so it must have been a fairly new item. I don't know if it's on their website yet. If it is, I didn't see it. But outside of the UK, I'm not too sure where these are being sold. But as I said, I would probably give this a 7.5, because what is there I am impressed with, but they really could have added a bit of extra detailing here. So could have been a lot better, but for what it is, I am happy. So I think that'll do it for this review. So thank you very much for watching.